Welcome to my Kayle Rush guide. This comp has recently risen to power after Kayle got a small rework. In this video, I will go over the build, what items you make, how to play the early, mid, and late game, then I will go into some in-depth positioning examples. But first, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, which is Tacter. It's the best mobile app for all things TFT, and even if you're like me and you mostly play on desktop, it's still a fantastic resource whenever I'm playing on my phone. For this video, I will include a link to the Kayle comp in Tacter, so you can get it directly into your phone with my own notes, and that link will be down in the description and also in the pinned comment. The build is a little flexible, as there are a few different variations you can run, but these are our 6 core units. We have Kayle, our carry, and then we have 4 knights that are there to stall the fight. Rel is there to sustain and also give us 3 redeemed. The last 2 units will depend on what you need and what you hit, but a standard level 8 board will look like this. Here we have 6 knights and 3 redeemed. This team is incredibly tanky and does well against anything that isn't burst damage. Another variation is to put in Lux and Gwen for mystics. This is to counter AP and also to give you more resistances in the clump around Gwen. Another variation is this. Here we put in Aatrox and Jax for Legionnaire and more Ironclads. The reason we don't run 6 redeemed is because the purpose of this comp is to stall for as long as possible so that Kayle will get to her final form and 1v9 everybody. Although 6 redeemed is a defensive synergy, many of the units do not provide defensive abilities, therefore they do not fit into this comp. If you make it to level 9, you will usually add in Lulu for another Mystic, Jax for another Ironclad, or Gwen for the Inamminate trait. Kayle is our main carry, so we prioritize making items for her first. She has one core item, and that is Ginsu's Rageblade. Kayle is all about scaling into the fight, and so is this item. It makes sure that if we are able to hit that 20-second mark in the fight, we will just run through the enemy team with true damage spam. The second item for Kayle wants to be a healing item. This is either Hodge or Gunblade. Hodge is definitely preferred as it heals from the start, and Gunblade only heals once she starts dealing true damage. The third item for Kayle wants to be GA. This item buys us time since Kayle keeps scaling while she's reviving from the GA. Another item that can work is Deathblade. This item scales really well off of her first and second ascension and makes her do a lot of damage quickly into the fight, the only downside being that you are more vulnerable. Tank items want to go on your strongest frontliner. This will be Galio or Rel in most cases. Other great items for this comp are aura items like Trapclaw and Zeke's. This further buffs up Kayle and also benefits your other tanks. Here is the Radiant item tier list for this comp. The carousel priority for this comp is Bow, Sword, Chain, then Belt. Since this comp revolves mostly around 4 and 5 cost units, we can play any opener we want to and then just transition into Kayle later. The best opener for this comp by far is redeemed with either Varus or Callista as the item carrier, and some other great openers are Tristana with Cannoneer and Hellion, or Sentinel Skirmishers. Once we have found our opener, we need to make items, and as a general rule, we want to make an item if we have 4 or more components. Some good items to build early game that transition well into Kayle late game are Rageblade, Hodge, Deathblade, Bramble, Declaw, Trapclaw, Redemption, and TG. Your early game strategy will depend a lot on how good your opener is. In some games you will play for a win streak, and in some games you will play for a loss streak, but since this comp requires you to be level 8 before you roll, we really need to level aggressively to save HP, and to win streak. If you want to learn more about how to play the early game, check out my guide where I go in depth on the subject. At the crux round, you should have more direction towards a comp. The general requirements to play Kayle is to have 1 component for Rageblade and 1 component for another Kayle item. The units we have matter a little, as it definitely helps to already have Poppy and Leona, as they can be a bit hard to hold late game. If you are weak in the mid game, typically around 70 to 60 HP and loss streaking, one option is to roll at level 6 to stabilize. We do this to make sure we're able to go level 8 later in the game. How much you roll depends on how strong the lobby is, but try not to go below 20 gold. You generally want to stabilize with a 4 knight comp, and then the remaining 2 units are damage carries that can use Kayle items well. Those will typically be carries like Varus, Callista, Tristana, Ashe, or Misfortune. During the mid game, it is also important to scout. This is so we can see how many other players are playing Kayle. This comp can support 2 players at max, but it's a lot harder to 2-star Kayle if somebody else is trying to do that as well. If you want to pivot, the best comp to pivot to is Ranger or Philios, but pivoting to Draven, Jax, or Lucian can also work depending on which items you've already slammed. At the Wolves round, you want to be level 7, and from here you need to assess whether you can fast 8 and play Kayle, or if you have to roll at level 7. This comp is considered a 1st or 8th kind of comp, and it's for a good reason. Generally, hitting a specific legendary unit at level 8 can be hard, and 2-starring it is extremely difficult if you don't have a ton of gold. So if you're low on gold and HP here, pivot to another comp and roll at level 7 for that comp. In general, if you want to fast 8 and play Kayle, you need at least 60 HP or more, and 50 plus gold on stage 4-1. The goal is to go level 8 on either stage 4-5 or 5-1, depending on how much gold and HP you have. Before you roll at level 8, it is very important that you know which units you're looking for. This is where all the previous scouting we have done comes in handy. With the information on what the rest of the lobby is playing, we can easily choose the best variation of our comp. 6 Knights is really good against small instances of damage like Vel'Koz, Lucian, Akshan, Karma. If most of the lobby is AP, going for the Mystic variation is better, and if most of the lobby is going AD, going the Ironclad version will be better. Once you've hit your board at level 8, you have 2 different options from there. The first option is to go level 9. This will require you to be relatively healthy, typically 40 HP or more, and it requires you to have 2-star the vast majority of your non-legendary units. But the more HP and gold you have, the less 2-stars you will generally need, as you will be able to get to level 9 sooner and also with more gold. The goal is to go level 9 on either stage 6-1 or 6-2 in most cases. The second option is to keep donkey rolling at level 8. You will do this when you're in a situation where you can't go level 9. You're still missing multiple 2-stars after your level 8 roll down, and or you're sitting on multiple pairs. In addition, if you are not very healthy and you can't sack most of stage 5 to go level 9, you might just be hard stuck level 8 for the rest of the game. This isn't as bad as it sounds, as we can still get a good placement as long as we're positioning properly. General positioning looks like this. Here we're clumping around Kayle to counter assassins. However, this gets countered by units like Teemo, Karma, and Vel'Koz, so if you have a lot of those carries in your lobby, spread more out like this. Thresh wants to be on the opposite side of the main carries. Rel wants to be adjacent to 2 units on either side to shield as much of our frontline as possible. Poppy and Leona are corner units, as they are the least valuable. Now moving on to some in-depth positioning examples. Against the first guy, the big threat is Jax and Viego. Kayle is 3rd row to make both Poppy and Thresh the farthest away to not get hooked by the enemy Thresh. Nautilus is stunning Jax, Rel is also stunning Jax, and Thresh is being Viego bait. Against the second guy, the big threat is Karma. Leona is making Volibear not ult Kayle and Garen. Nautilus and Galio are 3rd row to force Soraka to walk up, as she only has 3 range. Thresh is 2nd row to hopefully hook the Karma. Rel is in the middle to shield as many allies as possible, and also to dodge the Volibear ult. Against the third guy, the big threat is Lucian. We have positioned to make Lucian ult through both Galio and Thresh before he gets to Kayle. Rel is next to Galio to shield him, and also to shield Kayle. Even though we are on the same side as Pyke, Kayle will not walk up, so she will not get stunned either. If you want to see the match history from this gameplay, I will leave a link to that in the description where you can view it in the Tacter app. Thanks again to Tacter for sponsoring this video, and please check out their links in the description or in the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 3,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care, and see you in the next video.